president-elect has made it very clear that what he wants to do is be a unifier going forward, but it's also very clear he really is going to have his work cut out for him. Anderson.
Jason Carroll, thanks very much. I should point out, actually, you can see the White House behind us. We can actually now hear protesters outside, not too far from where we are. I can't really see it, but actually we have a camera there on it. We heard protesters chanting, I think I heard Black Lives Matter and No More Hate, as well. We heard those from protesters and others that we have heard tonight. We've seen this in a number of cities. We've seen Chicago, Portland, Oregon, Oakland, New York City as well, Philadelphia. There's obviously some of the protesters that we've heard from tonight say there's a sense of fear what they see as Donald Trump's sexism or racism that they believe was expressed during the campaign. As far as race, though, and taking a look at the numbers, 88% of African-American voters supported Hillary Clinton. 65% of Latinos did as well. John King is back to break it down by the numbers. Where did he do better than past Republicans to make up for those numbers?
Well, let's look first at the working class vote. You talked about that in the sense, again, I want to make clear, a lot of people think that millions of voters who hadn't voted before came out of the woodwork to vote for Donald Trump. That's not true. You got fewer votes than John McCain and fewer votes than Mitt Romney. What happened is Democrats stayed home. But among those voters who did come out to vote for Donald Trump, we do have a profound divide in this country on gender issues, on race issues, and on income issues. Look at white, no college degree voters, Rust Belt whites. These are the Rust Belt states. Romney's support. Romney won these voters without a doubt, but Donald Trump won them by much bigger margins. This should be 9 points. They adjusted the numbers. 9 points in Wisconsin, 7 in Michigan, 8 in Pennsylvania, 6 in Ohio. So white, blue-collar voters in the Rust Belt without a college degree absolutely were the engine that fueled this. Donald Trump turning 1, 2, 3 states that had been blue since the 1980s red. There's no doubt about it. But there's also an issue. You see those protesters Jason Carroll is with. There's no question Hillary Clinton had a much more diverse coalition. Democrats thought, because of the demographics of this country, that diverse coalition was going to power her to the White House just like it did President Obama twice. But look what happened. There was a drop-off. President Obama got 93% of the African-American vote 4 years ago. Hillary Clinton dropped off a little bit to 88%. Latinos dropped off a little bit, 6%. Asians dropped off 8%. Independent voters dropped off. Younger voters dropped off a little bit. Not only the percentages, Anderson, the percentages almost don't matter as much as the math, the raw numbers. In so many of the key states, Detroit, for example, Milwaukee, for example, African-American turnout, other Democratic base turnout like young people was down. She might have won the percentage. She might win 65% in the county. And you say, wow, she's on track to crush Donald Trump in that county. But the raw vote totals were down. And then Donald Trump, in a state like this, look at Wisconsin, runs it up in the white rural areas. Turnout for Democrats, sure, she gets 66% of the vote, but the raw numbers are down. And guess what? Wisconsin is red for the first time since the 1980s. So that's what happened. I want to show you one more quick map as we go through. Watch Jason Carroll out there tonight. There are red states and blue states. There is a deep divide in the United States. I like to use this map. Democrats don't like it. These are House districts in the United States of America. Look at all that red. Look at all this red in this map. We live in a center-right country. There's a reason Republicans hold more governorships, Republicans have a Senate majority, and Republicans have a House majority. This is America. Blue out on the coasts, but most of the middle of America, except for Minnesota, some areas in the Midwest, is very deep red. And that's the challenge for Donald Trump. How does he deal with those protesters in the streets in New York, in Washington, D.C. now, in Chicago, in Seattle? Those are blue areas. How does Donald Trump deal with them when the people who made him president live in these red areas? They want to build a wall. They want tough action on immigration. Other issues he can work with Democrats, though, on issues like trade, things like that. There are some places where he can work, especially with voters in the states that he flipped from blue to red.
So John, earlier in the last hour, Paul Begala, who was running working with the pro-Clinton super PAC, said essentially he believed there was just an enthusiasm gap, that Donald Trump had more enthusiasm among his supporters. That's what you agree with as well. I mean, the actual total number of Republicans voting for Donald Trump, you said, was lower than John McCain, lower than Mitt Romney, but the number of Democrats voting for Hillary Clinton was much, much lower than for President Obama.
There's no question. Again, there are 1,000 reasons for this. We could focus on one or two, and it might not be fair. Hillary Clinton is not a dynamic political candidate. She has many strengths as a politician. She's not a visceral, dynamic candidate. Number two, Barbara Bush at the beginning of the campaign, remember when she didn't want Jeb to run? She said in a country of 300 million plus people, do we have to have another Clinton and another Bush? I think the electorate processed that last night, without a doubt. One of the narratives was she had a strong, superior, super campaign organization, and they could make up that enthusiasm gap by touching voters and turning them out. Well, it turned out not to be true. I'll close with this, Anderson. My first campaign was 1988, when Michael Dukakis lost 40 states. A lot of people said, did your chief of staff get it wrong? Did your campaign manager get it wrong? What Governor Dukakis said, and I think it was appropriate, he used an old Greek saying, forgive my salty language, he said, the fish rots from the head. It's the candidate's fault. That's what he was trying to say.
All right, John, coming over to join the panel, our chief political analyst, Gloria Borger, is back. Also joining us, Clinton's 2008 campaign manager, Patty Solis-Doyle, and Republican Trump critic, Anna Navarro. And first of all, I just got to ask you about your T-shirt. What does it say?
It says, TGIO. Thank God it's over.
Okay.
So it seems like it may not be over.
So, as somebody who was a very vocal,
and I'm just very happy to be here. I want America to know I have not been deported yet.
all right, but I mean, as a Republican, but somebody who is also a very, very much
Jeffrey's
my
taking
phone.
notes over here.
very much
Take care of that
And
now.
also, let me let movement Republicans know I'm also not being interviewed for the chief of staff.
In terms of where you're at, I mean, bringing the country together, which is obviously, I think, something everybody wants. Even protesters in the street tonight, we're talking to our reporters about at some point things have got to come together. How does that happen?
It happens with our leaders. It happens with Donald Trump. I think he struck a very conciliatory note last night. I think Hillary Clinton struck that similar note today. She was gracious. You have to be gracious in victory, and you have to be gracious in defeat. And so far, we have seen both of them do that. We saw, I think, President Obama do that. I've got to tell you, it's all I can do to unhook myself and go out to the street and protest with these folks. But I also feel a very strong respect for the institution, for the presidency, for the office of the United States. I kept saying that to you over and over again. It's what motivated me over and over again to fight. And I'm very at peace with myself. I did every damn thing I could to stop Donald Trump from becoming president. But today, I know he is the president-elect, and I know that his success is our success, is our country's success, and I think that's what we have to focus on. We've got to give him a chance to lead. Now, if while being president, he resorts back to being the kind of campaign person, the kind of subhuman person, racist, divisive, hostile. Sorry, guys, I still need to.
All right, we got it.
Then we will call him out.
Right.
We will call him out, and we will call him out forcefully because that's what we're here for. That's what America means: freedom of expression. But until then, we've got to give him a chance to show what kind of person he's going to be as president.
Patty, I mean, obviously you were working with Clinton in 2008 when it didn't work out, so you have been here before in a sense. What do you say to the protesters who are out in the streets tonight, who may be thinking about going out, in future demonstrations, about trying to bring the country together, about, to Anna's point, of giving the president a chance to lead?
Yeah, well, look, I ran her 08 campaign. We lost, and it was horrible. It's an excruciating thing to lose a presidential campaign because you put everything you have into it, right? These are 18, 20-hour days. It affects your family. It affects your friends. I mean, it's just excruciating. So I feel their pain when their, candidate lost. But I agree with Anna. It is time to come together now. It is time to unify. If the Bernie Sanders people could do it with the Clinton people during the primary, I mean, I think we can do it now. But look, the onus is on Trump to be gracious. I think we're going to see a lot more graciousness tomorrow when Trump meets with the president in the Oval Office. I think we're going to see two presidents tomorrow, and I think that's going to have an impact on.
Patty, they're not protesting because they lost. They're protesting for the fear of losing to Donald Trump and what the future holds. And I think it is so important that Donald Trump and his close advisors see these protests and realize we are a divided country. And governing a divided country is a very difficult task.
And reach out to
it is
them and
up to
acknowledge
them,
them.
and it is to their benefit to try to reach out and bring
One of the things that I remember from 2009 that kind of stunned me was two things. One was Rush Limbaugh saying when Obama took office, "I am rooting for him to fail.
Can I
want him to fail." And the second, frankly, were people like Donald Trump who challenged the president's right to be there, challenged his citizenship. I don't raise that to be provocative. I raise it because many people, I believe what you believe, which is we have one president at a time. We all have to hope for success. It's the success of the country. But there are a lot of people who say, well, gee, they didn't give Barack Obama that chance. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter now. What matters is what happens going forward.
I want to answer for Rush here. When he said that, what he was saying was that he believed Senator Obama, President-elect Obama, was going to move the country towards the socialist left, and he hoped he failed in that attempt. He's frequently said since that he didn't fail in the attempt. He didn't want him to fail in the sense that I think this is being used. He was totally misunderstood.
So he meant it in a nice way.
No. What he meant is, look, as a conservative, he didn't want the country, the president, to take the country to the far left.
All right, I want to talk more with the panel. We got to take another quick break. With Trump protesters still on the streets in a number of cities, you see there in New York.